and modern medical technology, Bob Howe battled back.
Number 3 Cottage Lane in Midlothian, Illinois, is a setting right out of a Norman Rockwell painting. Fittingly, a Rockwell protege named Robert Charles Howe lives and works here. 32-year-old Bob Howe is a successful artist-illustrator whose tranquil existence was interrupted 4 years ago by a nightmare. Darkness descended on this bright world as diabetes attacked his eyesight. Today, with vision partially restored, Bob Howe continues to practice his art.
Right now, just to be able to see myself into the studio right now is a joy. I think maybe because having my vision back now is like, it just puts more importance on everyday type of situations and everything that happens. But now it seems like even the small things are even that much more important when I see them. And being able to put those down now once again is really like indescribable. It's a joy.
Bob Howe's greatest joy has always been to emulate the style of the artist he admired most, Norman Rockwell.
My grandfather, and he used to get the Saturday Evening Post. And I can remember sitting on his lap and going over the pages of the Post and looking at Rockwell's covers. Using Rockwell as a mentor was an act of rebellion because when I was going to school, a lot of the kids didn't even know who Rockwell was or if he existed. They considered it very cornball type of stuff. And so I just reversed it and used it as an act of rebellion. I felt like if I imitated him, even though the way he dresses, the way he smoked a pipe, everything, I felt as though that would help me to create the type of art that he created. I don't know if it did or it didn't. I know I almost set a couple paintings on fire that way. The first time I met Rockwell, he told me that he hadn't seen work like that in years, and it was quite a compliment. It really inspired me that, you know, to keep going in this vein.
With Rockwell's blessing, the Post hired this 19-year-old prodigy to follow in his mentor's footsteps. His cover stirred a nation's nostalgia and attracted the interest of a young art student named Sheila Malloy.
He's very detailed, he's very articulate. A lot of artists, especially in this day and age, can't draw well, and he can draw beautifully. He draws very well, which gives him the ability to be more articulate, particularly as a storyteller than most other people.
Sheila Malloy also attracted the interest of Bob Howe, and in 1978, they were married.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the height of illustration. You were your own art director, you were your own color scheme.
Sheila became Bob's agent and manager, as well as his wife, and they left the magazine to broaden his horizons.
That's great.
Not only that one, I hope the other one gets in too.
Artists are usually very shy, they're very introverted. And it's easy for me because I'm not a practicing artist, and it's not my work that I'm selling, it's his.
But the harmony of their life was haunted by an unspoken doubt. As a diabetic since childhood, Bob Howe had always known that someday his eyesight might be affected.
From reading around about the old masters like Cezanne and stuff, I knew that he had developed diabetes and that some of his loss of eyesight was due to that, but that happened much later, so I thought it would happen much later in life. The very first time anything happened to my vision, it seemed like a normal morning. And what had happened, I sat down at the drawing board, and all of a sudden I realized that there was a couple dots of dark color, just very like pinpoints. And it was all, I've had that experience before, and I think a lot of people have, where just small blood vessel breaks and you see that a little dot, and you think it's just going to disappear in a few minutes. It just dissipates. But this one didn't seem to. It just kept happening and happening. And finally, the eye formed what was like a dark spider web in the middle of my vision.
At the age of 28, Bob Howe had come face to face with a painter's greatest fear.
December of '83, we were getting ready to go to a good friend's Christmas party. I heard a really strange sound, and every once in a while, because we're in such a rural area, we're right around forest preserves, we have animals that get trapped like underneath the house, and that's what the sound sounded like to me, and I ran upstairs to tell him, and the sound hadn't come from that, it had come from him. I realized it was him, and what had happened is that what they call the black curtain, where all the blood vessels within a particular eye break at once, and there's no eyesight, no light entering, nothing.
I felt backed into a corner. I can remember walking down on Wabash Avenue, and just feeling, you know, just thinking, why not just run out in front of a car or something and get it over with now.
When Bob Howe first came in to see me, he'd already had quite a good bit of visual loss. He had vitreous hemorrhage, hemorrhage into this space of the eye from the blood vessels that run in the retina that line the inside of the eyeball. And the patient can't see out through that vitreous hemorrhage. He was working at the end of his rope, as it were.
Work was no longer at all a joy, really kind of like hell. But I had commitments, and I had to try to get something done on them. But during those times, what I'd have to do is literally sleep, like during the night, sleeping up so all the blood would settle during the night, and then get up the next morning and try to work as much as I could before the eye would move too much and mix it all up. So it was a real frustrating time.
He'd made arrangements to go over a project with a client. He had the pictures and the pages of that project laid out in a sequence that he memorized, so he could sort of flip the pages and go over what he knew was on each page, even though he couldn't see it. And the client didn't know any different. He thought he could see it. He has an indomitable spirit, and I really admire that, and I'd work very hard for an individual like that.
For the time being, Dr. Carl Fetgenauer's skill in laser surgery has restored full vision to one of Bob Howe's eyes, and the love and support of Sheila has given him the strength to face his uncertain future.
I think the best thing I can do is just keep a positive mental attitude towards the idea that I still will be able to continue to work. It could just end up that way, that this is just another experience, you know, maybe a negative one, but another experience nonetheless, whether it's good or bad, that I've gone through. And to have lived through it and experienced it, and then somehow control it and put it down for other people to view it by way of drawing it or painting it. Somehow or other, it's got to be worth something.